Hi, my name is Claire, and this is my story of how I was widowed at the age of 41. Thanks for joining me, and the story continues. Hello, me again. On to episode 4. Still going, still lots to talk about. I want to say I've had lots and lots of lovely messages actually since I've been doing this podcast. Messages from people saying that they're now going to, get their lives in order for their husbands, wives, and families. And then I received a letter in the post this week, which kind of shook me. A typed up letter sent to me just saying that they'd seen the podcast and they'd been a police officer for 30 years and that they had to, they were the ones who had to knock on the door and give the news and come into the house and have a look round, and kind of made him reflect on, if he was compassionate enough, if he said the right things, if he gave the families enough time to grieve. And I was shocked because I never thought that, that would be something that I'm kind of having people think about as well. So if it, what I'm saying does sort of reach out to you, then I'm glad I'm doing the right thing, and I'll carry on. So this episode is called What Now? One thing I want to address, which my family member mentioned to me because it really upset the family at the time. There was a time from when he'd passed and the news had come out at the club, and also because of sort of who he was, it came out in our local press as well. So we're in Manchester, so the Manchester Evening News had an article about it, and our local newspapers. How do I feel about that? Some of my friends saved the newspapers for us. I didn't see them until I was sort of handed a copy. And they were nice write-ups, but, it's just really sad. Our little life that we were just getting on with things. And, it's hard to read those things because at the time, it just hammered in that it was real, which I didn't believe for a long time, and still now even think, God, he's not going to walk through the door or anything. But just going back to what I wanted to address. So there was a time from when he'd sort of passed and nobody knew other than the family sort of what happened. So there were rumours at the club that he had committed suicide, basically. So that got through people to my family, and they were absolutely fuming. They weren't sure whether to tell me, but did. And when they told me that, they couldn't believe that I was so calm about it. I didn't really care what they were saying. I knew there'd be gossip. But, if you are watching this and you were involved in that gossip, honestly, shame on you. You don't know how it affects people when you talk about those things, especially when, you're going through such grief, and he has a young daughter. So that made me have to put out something on social media to give an idea of what happened, so it would sort of knock that rumour on the head. So we started to raise money for the British Heart Foundation, which I was hoping would give people a clue into what happened. I have the autopsy report. I know what happened. And for people to think that he would just do that and leave us, which he would never do. We had a really happy life. We were getting on with things. We were driven, to succeed in everything that we did. So, yeah, I just wanted to address that those things came out as well, and that's something else we had to deal with that was unexpected in our family, and hurtful. I still feel a bit numb to it, to be honest. Like I say, I know people gossip, and those people clearly didn't know who he was, or didn't know him well enough. So, just another thing really that we've had to deal with, and probably going to deal with a therapist one day. But anyway, what I wanted to talk about is, and I'm going to read a lot. I wrote down pages and pages the other day, and I was just sat here on my couch, and I start thinking about things, and so I grabbed a pen and paper and wrote it down. So yeah, episode 4, what now? So after it happened, within a few days, I wanted to find somebody who was maybe in the same boat as me at that exact time. I do have friends who have lost their other halves, but you know, it was a while ago, and even though it's still very hurtful and they are still grieving years on, I just kind of wanted someone to guide me, to say, or to just, you know, be like, yeah, it's happened to me, this is what I'm doing. You know, I had to do everything on my own. I didn't have anyone to organise it for me. I didn't, you know, have solicitors and things like that who helped me at the time. I actually did everything myself, from buying the house to buying the land to speaking to insurance companies, the bank, everything, pension, the lot. So I ended up on Reddit, which I don't really go on, and I still check on it every now and then. And I found a widows group. So on there they say, and they're so welcoming and everyone's so lovely and heartbroken. There's so many questions about everything on there. So I'll cover some of those today. They say on there that it's the boat nobody wants to be in. But, you know, they're glad that we're here and we're all in the same boat. So we all completely understand. Which is nice, because it is hard to understand unless you're in that situation, in this situation. So firstly, I wanted to find someone who'd lost a husband or wife, like I say, around the same time. At this point, he was mid so many projects. And I'll tell you something else as well. He was in the process of switching jobs. And he'd had a job interview lined up, which luckily he had sort of mentioned about 2 or 3 days after he actually passed away. So I received an email, well, on his email, as I had to keep checking to make sure we weren't missing anything, saying, "Hi, Paul, you know, you didn't turn up for the interview that we had because we were really keen. Is everything okay?" So I read that, my heart sank. I had to then, you know, within a week of him passing, say, you know, I'm his wife. I'm so sorry he didn't turn up, but he passed away this weekend. Again, you know, I was still coming to terms with it. I had to write it down and tell somebody I didn't know the reason he didn't turn up to something. Unbelievable, really. Again, something else, just all these little things that I've had to deal with, sort of without anybody knowing. You know, I've not spoke to anyone about that until now. So yeah, that was tough. You know, I had to try and remember his phone passcode, which, you know, he'd given to me. Obviously, he didn't go through his phone or anything like that, you know, while he was alive. But luckily, after a couple of goes, I did remember it. So I had access to that, which was lucky because everything was in there. So I had access then to his files, his emails, and just everyday life. He had cards. I knew he had cards I didn't know he had. He had a loan. I wasn't aware that he'd took out a few weeks before. You know, we bought a new family car about 3 weeks before he passed, so there was all still the tying up of that to do. And then obviously I had to sell one of the cars eventually. I couldn't keep both. His car was sat for a good few months. The new car, you know, I had to YouTube just how to switch the thing on, and you know, how to change the seat, and all the just little things. I remember being sat there in the front seat thinking, how do I switch this blooming thing on? And I just sat there and thought, I can't believe I'm having to do this right now. I can't believe I'm having to do it. But it needed turning over and it needed driving. And eventually I sold my car and kept his car, or well, the family car, which we got for the family. So I drive that around now, and honestly, I don't think I can get rid of it. Like most things, it's hard to get rid of because it's still him in there. It's his thing. Yeah, so he had an office. I had to go through. He didn't throw anything away, to be honest, but he had paperwork for pensions, account details, all those things. Also, you're open to fraud as well when something like this happens. So I was keen that I had to find everything and try and shut things down as quickly as possible and just tie everything up. So I you know, there's a lot of things in my brain this last year. I had to try and remember who I've contacted, who's not contacted me back, chase them up. and all those things. One of his last pensions, like a small one he'd had from when he was younger, that his mum had found a letter for at his house. And a good friend of mine who works in insurance took all his previous jobs, and he was able to do a search to see if there was anything outstanding. So that last one only came in a few weeks ago. I think it's the last one. There's nothing else I'm chasing up, except for I know years ago he was looking into cryptocurrency and that kind of thing, and I do think that I could be a millionaire now. It could be, Bitcoin or something out there. Again, I don't really understand that, and I have no idea how to try and access that, but that'll be in this next coming year to try and tie that up. If there is anything, you probably took it back out, I don't know. So yeah, I mean, yeah, payments, we shared a bank account. We both had our own bank accounts as well. So yeah, direct debits coming out. I had to wait for them to bounce before I could sort those things out. So it's a waiting game as well. I needed to, you paid for the house and most of the things in the house. So just little things like taking over Netflix, Disney, TV license, like Disney Plus, Amazon, the house bills, water. Yeah, I didn't know who my car insurance was with. House insurance, all those things he sort of sorted out. So that's something else I had to try and figure out. I think my car insurance came in for renewal, so I had to wait for that. And then I was like, right, okay, so this one's the insurance. Great. Now let's sort that out. But there are all these things where you're trying to grieve are really, really stressful, and you're numb, you don't want to do it, but you're forced to do it because who else is going to do it, basically. We had email addresses and things like that, so I had to keep up with them. I've not closed them down. I still pay for a couple of his emails because we have personalised email addresses, but I'm sure, and I don't really go through them. There's so much more now. There's been another year of junk mail, I suppose. I just can't even bring myself to look through it. But I figure that if anything's so important, they'll write to me or it'll present itself, so I can deal with them. Yeah, my email address as well linked to this sort of Microsoft account. One day I woke up and my emails had disappeared. They weren't available on my phone. I didn't know how to get into them. He was like my admin. He had the admin center and stuff like that. So I had no clue what happened, but everything I was waiting for to come back in came to my email. So without that, I had lost access to a lot of information that I'd had and that was coming in as well. Luckily, his friend, thank you, and he still helps me now. I don't know what I'd do without him. A friend he met in a previous job, who is still our pal, he stepped up and helped me and logged in and all that kind of thing. So thank you so much. I'd probably still have no email now. Another day, I dropped Charlotte off at school and I was in the car and I was about to ring my dad, couldn't find my dad's number. All my contacts from my phone had disappeared because, and I don't know if you're techie, but it was linked in to whatever it set it up to. I don't know. He was in IT is his career, so he'd done all the clever things to make sure we don't really get junk and it filters through and we're not targeted with fraud and that kind of thing. So, and then my other friend came round and somehow got my contacts back. In the meantime, I bought a new phone as backup just in case, which I'll probably slowly move over to. There's so, what it's like with your phone. There's so much on it. I mean, like 20,000 photos and videos. And it's just taking the time to try and sit down and the energy and think, right, I need to teach myself now. I need to learn something new. I need to learn how to do this that he did. I need to take it over. I've learned a lot of new life skills this year. I can even drive on the other side now in a foreign country. So that's handy. And it might sound silly and daft, but these things now are just so self-sufficient. The mum, I'm the dad, run everything on my own. I'm very independent anyway, luckily. But the strength it took to just try and get those things tied up, it now gives me this second year to look at other things, healing myself, bringing up our daughter, And luckily I don't have to think about too much of the other admin stuff that went on because I've done it. I'll go into a bit of that on here, but there's going to be a dedicated episode, and I keep saying the next one, but probably the next episode will be about everything that I had to do, and because I did it all on my own, and I think I've done it right. But I've got a little red book. I opened it the other day, actually. We had a spare notebook, and I opened, I think the day after, the 2 days after he passed away, I opened it, just not even from the beginning, just in the middle somewhere, and I found the nearest pen I had, which was a blue sort of crayon that was next to me of Charlotte's, and I wrote coroner's number and the number, and that's the first thing that I wrote in it. The whole book is full of passwords, passwords that were his that have had to change, so I remember them. All these direct debits that have come out, how much, and can I get rid of them? Do I need to pay them? That was scary as well, because he had debt, which I thought I'll never be able to manage. It was okay in the end, and I'll talk about that more in the next episode. There's still things I pay for now. I still pay for his phone. I still pay for his email to work. I just can't let go of his phone. It's switched off the majority of the time, and every now and then I'll switch it back on. But it just sits there now, and if I need it for anything, I can go into it, or if anyone needs a number that I don't have that were one of his contacts, I can go into it. But I just, he had his number forever. I don't know if I can quite get rid of that, and maybe it's something I'll pass it on to Charlotte, I was thinking, so we can keep it. So I quickly started to keep busy as well. I couldn't just sit still, because when I sit still, the realization sank in, and that's something I just couldn't handle. So the house looks completely different now. I spent a little bit of money just doing up the house, doing the things that we talked about, but just not quite made a decision on yet. So I've sort of renovated the garden, just so it's a nice space for Charlotte to play. I've changed a few of the rooms, not really, but furniture and things like that, just changed them around and added a few things here and there. I dismantled his office, because it was in one whole room of the house. And I think I just wanted to be in there, and to be in there and not just be in there to sit there and think, meant that I was putting things away in bags and storing them, going through his things, and just seeing his handwriting, little notes, all his little sort of his trinkets and things that he kept. He had a lot of memorabilia, and the things he loved, were all in that room. Putting it all away was really sad, but I wanted to keep it safe, and it was a room that wasn't being used anymore. I wasn't using it as an office, and I felt like it was his space as well, so I packed everything away. When it comes to his phone, when it came to his phone, at first I couldn't remember the passcode, and I remember, these are the things you think about, I remember thinking he'd not been buried yet, and I thought, am I going to have to go in there and face scan into his phone just so I can open it? And I was like, that's not, see, death etiquette as well, like, you want to be really respectful of the person who you love, and it was a strange thing to go through my mind, but it was sheer panic of, what do? I need to access his stuff. I don't want to miss anything. I don't want to get caught with a huge bill further down the line because I've not paid for anything. Like, I didn't know what to do. I mean, who knows what to do in that situation. I didn't scan his face. That was wrong. I think I would have just ended up with the huge bill that I paid, other than do something like that. I just felt like in my heart it was wrong and weird, and when I'm with him, I don't want to be sorting admin out. When I was with him, I wanted to sit with him. And on the day before the funeral, he was at the funeral home, and he was in the little chapel that's in there, and at that point he was in the coffin. He was in his suit, you know, he was ready to go. His mum and his dad went in and spent some time with him. And in the chapel, there's like a little music playlist of nice, relaxing songs. And I'd wrote him a letter, and I put it in an envelope, and I placed that here, just sort of next to his head. We took a toy from Charlotte, which I put in his hand. Actually, no, sorry. What did I put the letter in there? No, I put it in his inside pocket, I think, inside his jacket. Yeah, he had a toy of Charlotte's in his hand. This is what he's buried with. He's got a toy in his hand. In the actual casket, it opened in 2 parts. So the first part here was open, and there's photographs inside the actual coffin itself in the casket, and it's all the family. So when it closed, it's all just right there in front of him. And then his mum had obtained these little knitted, there's a little knitted teddy bear and some little knitted pink hearts. And what you do is you put so there was 2 of each. So one was from Charlotte, one was from me, and then his mum and dad had one, and we've kept one with us. And then the replica one is in with him as well. So he has one and we have one. So we're tied that way as well. Charlotte's got a little knitted teddy bear, and I've got a little heart. Oh, the heart I put in his jacket, on his heart. Yeah, the letter was by his head, if I recall. We cut off a little bit of his hair, and we kept that in a little bag. So, you know, once they're you know, they're buried, that's it, you know, and you want to keep something of theirs with you. You know, not that I've looked at the hair or anything since, but I know it's there. And it's just those little things that keep you close, I suppose. Another little thing was, I used to go to bed before him and stay up, and he'd talk to all the people he needed to talk to, sort of from like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and you know, even 1 o'clock in the morning. Crazy, really. But he came to bed last, so he'd lock up all the house. We have an alarm for the day, we have an alarm for the night, so he used to always put the nighttime alarm on. And I remember one night going to bed, and you know, you close up the house and everything, and I went to put the alarm on, the nighttime alarm, and I didn't remember what it was. I couldn't remember what it was. I didn't want to type in the wrong thing in case the alarm went off. So for about 2 months, I just didn't put the nighttime alarm on. I just could not remember for the life of me what it was. And then one day it just sort of popped in my head, and I typed it in, and it was right. So, you know, we have an alarm now. but just all those little things that pile on top of everything else. And, you know, you've not got the energy for these things either as well sometimes. And there's just so much. It's just silly little things. The little things that he knew and I didn't about our lives, because he just took care of it. I gave other things a year, which I continued to pay, and now it's sort of been a year. I'm going to start tying those things up. You know, if people hadn't come to me with any, because he bought everyone a domain who needed it, like other companies and friends, and just silly ones. And, you know, if there was a friend who was doing a little silly website for whatever reason, he'd buy their domain name. But he paid for them as well. He had 111 domains. For some reason, I'm going to say like 95 of them weren't being used, but he still paid for to take them off the market. Like he had, you know, he had my email address, and then he had the same email address in .com and .co.uk for my maiden name. You know, he had all his names taken off, projects he wanted to work on, but he'd take like .com, .co.uk, .org, you know, net, and all those like things. So, and there was loads for the football that he took off the market, just so if he ever wanted to set up a website, he had that domain. So I had to close all them off. Paid for them for a while as well. I think they're mainly done now, I hope. It fills me with dread to go back into it though, and look at it all, and because that was a mammoth task. And again, something I was just had to pay for. You know, his kind nature, he was helping his friends, you know, set up companies. So I was terrified that if I cancelled them, someone's whole business was going to go down, like their emails and everything like that. It's just like the pressure of that was so intense, but it was all out my hands, you know, and he didn't let them down, and I felt like I had to carry that on and not let them down. So I just continued to do what he was doing for a long while, and then at least I didn't have to think about it. Every time it came out my account, I was like, yeah. It's just so annoying. But again, you know, I've given it a year. If you've not come to me, then it can't be important, right? I hope. After a few months, I packed his clothes away, and his things and the rest of his things, but I still have them. A few shirts that he was going to get rid of anyway, or maybe had tags on and things like that, I took to the charity shop. There wasn't much, but he was getting rid of them anyway, or he'd never worn them in the first place, like things for Christmas or birthday presents that he just probably maybe didn't like and just didn't wear. The rest of his stuff is all packed away, and actually I was talking to his mum the other day about this, his mum and dad. We planned on, you know, getting his t-shirts out and making like a blanket for Charlotte, and maybe get some of his shirts out and, you know, make a blanket out of those as well. Or make like a quilt, so we can wrap ourselves up in it. And because I'm worried that, you know, the clothes are just gonna rot, you know, and in time, if I don't do anything with them for years and years and years, you know, I'm gonna go eventually, and then Charlotte's left with not only my things, but, you know, all the father's things, and she's not tied to them like I am. She hasn't got the memory of a dinner, or you know, where he wore that outfit, that suit, that shirt. An event, a football event that we went to, with a dinner, the things he wore, the things we wore together, like if I had like a ball gown on and, you know, his outfit. She hasn't got those memories. She's not tied to them like I am. So what's she going to do with them? So we're going to do what we can, and we're going to turn his clothes into something useful that we are going to use. And then he can be out around the house, and, you know, when we look at it, we remember him. Not that we forget about him, we think about him every day. Yeah, Charlotte came in one day, and she'd found a shoebox, and she'd put the little Ratcliffe sticker on it for the football club, and she'd wrote on it like my daddy's box, and then she'd drawn like her and her daddy. I love my daddy so much. She wrote Ratcliffe on it, and she came in with it one day, and she's like, "Mummy, I need things to put in the daddy box." I was like, what daddy box? And she brought it in, and just, oh, my heart, it sank, but was just so full of love as well that she did it off her own back. Because it's hard to gauge where she is with it all. And she brought it in, so we put his glasses in there, and there was a shirt that still smelt of him and still does now, which I had under his pillows and the bed. I had a few t-shirts and a shirt of his, so we put that in the box, and we put a picture of him that was taken on our wedding day. That's in the box, and that sits in a room, and we'll go through it, and, you know, we can add more things. But the fact that she came up with that on her own was so sweet. Oh, she's a little darling. So yeah, that it did make me happy, and my heart was so full when she brought that in. But going back to Reddit, so yeah, a few days after he passed away, I was online, and I came across Reddit. I didn't really know what it was. However, for those who don't know, and I know now, Reddit is like, it's a massive online forum made up of thousands of like smaller communities, and each one is focused on a specific topic, a hobby, or an interest, which are called subreddits. So the subreddit that I am part of now, I go to every now and then for advice, is called Widowers. Yay! So it's hugely supportive. Everyone has a different story, a very sad story. You know, some people lost their spouses suddenly, like myself. Other people woke up and found them unresponsive next to them. Other people had been through, you know, a month to 2 month battle with cancer to, you know, a 1.5 2 year battle with cancer where they became their carers, and now they don't have a clue what to do anymore because their life was caring for their person, and now they're just lost, like all of us in there. It's like a forum of lost souls. It really is. You know, there's questions on there from sort of how much should I care now, to birthday letters that they've decided that they just wanted to write a letter and they've posted it on there for people to read. Just getting your feelings out there. You know, to people who just hate their new life. They don't want to go on. They don't know what to do. And then a lot of people just asking if it gets any better. There's people on there who have been widowed for 10 years, and, you know, people who've been widowed for a week or a few days. I can tell you now that the general consensus is it doesn't change. It fades, the pain maybe fades in years, but the event still happened to you as the living. It's something that doesn't go away, and it just carries with you. There's people on there who are like, you know, I was widowed, and then I met somebody, we got married, and they were widowed again. Can you believe that? That's tough. You know, and then they just, you know, maybe with somebody else, and I think, wow, how do you even do that? You know, how do you even find someone else and then get married? And then there's people who've been on dates. But, you know, one thing is, everybody who they speak to or meet, or like friends or, you know, potential lovers in the future, everybody knows the story. Some people say we've seen someone for a while, but it got too hard. Other widowers meet other widowers, and they talk about it that way. But a question that stood out to me was around the wedding rings. So I still wore my rings for a while, and I'd wear his ring on my other hand as well. And then my engagement ring needed looking at and fixing, so that was in for about 3 months. Looks amazing again now, but my wedding ring is a family heirloom, so it's like I think it was 100 years old when he gave it to me. So because it's been fixed, I don't tend to wear it. I don't wear them every day now. I started going to the gym to help sort of just with mental health and just to keep fit and things. So I do a class that has that boxing in it, so I was taking my rings off for that, and then I was going like every day, so I just didn't put my rings on. Some people wear them on a necklace. I didn't. But if I'm going out with friends or for a night out, I'll put my rings back on. I might wear my wedding ring on the other hand and wear my engagement ring, but I'm conscious that I have to keep that safe because it's old, but looks beautiful still. But yeah, some people still wear them, you know, 5, 10, 15 years on. Some people have them both their rings melted down to make something else. It's completely your preference, really, what you do with them. But, you know, my year of firsts was a crazy, wild roller coaster of disbelief, picking myself up off the floor time and time again, trying to just figure things out, bring Charlotte up. At work, I still worked at the time, you know, sorting the house out, closing Paul's life down, finding things to close down, accounts and all that kind of thing. I had to relearn just how to live a new life out of the blue. And worst job was then I had to take the bins out, which I hate doing, and was Paul's job. So yeah, and yeah, the dishwasher as well. He used to do that. Those are his jobs, the bins in the dishwasher. So, yeah, I have to do those things. Totally sucks. I hate the bins. I really hate doing it. But yeah, before I go on that and wrap up episode 4, I wanted to tell you just about my birthday last year. So I turned 42, and so it was the first one without him. Oh, it was just awful. I became so ill, like the week, you know, leading up to, you know, Christmas, Charlotte's birthday. Then it was my birthday. Then his birthday, you know, a couple of weeks after my birthday, and Valentine's Day. Mother's Day, Father's Day, our wedding anniversary, I just like literally became poorly. I had stomach pains, chest pains. The anxiety was just awful and so sad, just a lot of crying and headaches. You know, there's no special attention, there's no gifts that, you know, from him. There's no going out for dinners and celebrating with the person you love. You know, it was just like an empty hole, and still is. So I ran away with Charlotte. So we've been given a gorgeous gift basket off the school mums that all chipped in. And in this gift basket was things like, you know, pyjamas for Charlotte and me, a little dressing gown, you know, perfume, a little jewellery box. And they'd got us a mummy and daughter pamper day, which was like, we went in, we got in like a spa, like a jacuzzi, and we put our own music on. We were the only ones in there as well. It was so cute. And we had our nails done, we had a foot spa, she had her hair done and was dancing around. It was a lovely day. It was really sweet, but it was in Sheffield. Obviously we're in Manchester, so when I realised it was in Sheffield, and my gorgeous, amazing, like, bestie, Polly, who I'd mentioned in the first episode, she lives there, so we decided to go there for my birthday. So we went to the spa, and then that night we went round to Polly's house, and we sat in the living room with the kids, had a couple of drinks, and put on like music TV and danced around and got pizza, and it was great. It was just so lovely, just to be there with her and the kids. And you know, I didn't see her nearly enough, so you know, it was definitely time to go and do that. So I decided being with Polly was the thing I wanted to do for my birthday, and me and Charlotte can have this pamper day. So I got us an Airbnb, like in the countryside. It was really beautiful. It was like a barn off this house, really cute little like cottage barn. So I've made us some dinner in the cottage, and you know, later on that night she'd gone through to the bedroom with her iPad, and was sort of winding down and chilling out. And oh, it's hard. I sat on the couch. I'm in this strange place. I'm alone. Paul's not here anymore, and Charlotte was away in the bedroom, and I was just sat there thinking, God, what is my life like? What is this? I still can't believe it's happened. I still thought I was in some crazy fever dream nightmare, and I just cried. I cried on the couch, like sob. I didn't even cry. I was like sobbing, but quietly, so Charlotte didn't hear. You know, she's seen me cry a little bit, but in those times when I've needed to sob and just wanted to wail, I've had to do it really quietly. And so I just went to find some solace in my new little Reddit widowers group. And I'd not written in it before. I'd always just sort of read everyone's little story, and, you know, read what other people think, you know, the questions that they had on there. And so I think a couple of days before I'd got on there, and I had written something, just about, I wanted to tell my story. So, you know, hi everyone, just want to tell my story type thing. And, you know, I was away on holiday, I got this call, had to come back, and I just wanted to write it all out and just think about what I'd been through, you know, months before, and just sort of understand, and I just wanted to write it out and see what other people had to say. The messages, I've gone back onto it, the messages were so beautiful and really, really supportive. But, you know, more than that, they just understood. They understood exactly what it was to lose the person that they had a life with and that they loved. So I replied. I was just so sad. My heart was just broken and sank. And so this was my reply to those people. Thank you for all your words. My daughter's in bed. It's my birthday tomorrow, and I'm just sat here silently crying. It's the worst I've felt since it happened. My autopilot is fading away, and I feel like there's a new phase of grief happening. I hate this. How do I do this? I know it's one step at a time. I really miss him. My one has gone. It sucks on my own. I know I can do it and I'll be okay. I hate this firsts thing and I want to scream. So they told me to go and scream. They told me to lean into my grief. And they told me not to put timelines and pressure on anything and myself. And they told me to listen to my body and to take care. They told me that we were so sorry and that they were there if I needed anything or if I needed someone to talk to. And, you know, that was sent to me by complete strangers. But they knew. And that kept me going for a good few months, knowing that they were there and just reading their stories. So it was really precious to know that they were there and had done that. Okay. So I just wanted to talk over the silent support that I had there. Obviously, I've had a lot of support from my friends and family. You know, most people have been really supportive. You'd start to learn who's probably not that fussed. And, you know, friendships disappear a little bit. You know, and after a year, reflecting on who's really been there for you, you know, they're the people you're going to carry on forwards with. The people who really cared, the people who turned up at my door when I've been upset, and the people who just check in with us. For me, the people who actually go and see me in the cemetery and send me a picture or something, tell me they've gone, that means more than you know. It really does. But yeah, I'll tie it up there. I think I've spoken, it feels like it's gone quick. So I sat down here, I've got my coffee. I didn't want to do it today, but I'm going to try and keep on with this every Wednesday. I've not got any sleep lately, so I feel like I'm stumbling over myself a little bit, and obviously I've had my words written down to sort of go to. But if no one listens to this episode, then so be it. But if you do, I hope you can take something from it. Go and hug your loved ones right now. Well, if you can't right now, love that, you know, give them a cuddle tonight. Call them, organise a date night, take her out, take him out. Make those memories, because that's what life's about at the end of the day. Life is just about being happy, not the other crappy little things in between. Everything's going to be okay. Don't worry about it. I'll see you in episode 5. Okay. Bye for now.
Hi, my name is Charlotte and thank you for watching my mummy's video, and don't forget to like and subscribe.